What is the difference between the R5 Mark II and the R5? Well, I have them both right here. And in today's video, we're going to do a live breakdown, meaning I'm going to explore it with you and I'm not going to really know what's going on. I have a few facts in my head, but really I just want to show you in real time what's going on with these cameras. So let's start with the R5 Mark II and R5 on the outside. Looking at these cameras side by side, they look identical, brothers. What's up, brother? But there are a few key differences that are worth noting in the R5 Mark II. This camera's on-off switch is on the right, the R5's is on the left, and the difference between this power switch and the other is that this one has a lock section in the middle, allowing you to freeze the settings that you have in case you're running gun, in case you're doing quick changes on set and you don't want to bump your settings. This is a great tool to have. Now, in place of the power button on the left, they have a photo and video switch button, which was sorely missed in the R5. Being able to switch back and forth between photo and video that quickly is very nice, because the original R5, you had to do menu, info, select the mode you want to go into. It was clumsy. It slowed you down when you were on set. I remember so many times with clients be like, oh, great, can you get a photo of that too? I'm like, sure, 1 second, I'm just over here, tip-tapping away like a nerd. Outside of those two components though, everything else is the same. We have a great little LCD pass-through window on the very top, and on the back, things also look identical. Or I should say almost identical, because on the R5 Mark II, the EVF looks strikingly different than the EVF on the R5. And I thought to myself, wow, this is a bigger and better EVF. But if we look at a spec sheet, it says that they're the same. So right now I'm shooting on the R5C. And I have to tell you, this camera has always been a forgettable camera to me. Feels like a weird, ugly, like middle child in the R5 lineup. But the one thing I will say the R5C definitely solved was the overheating issues that we had in the R5. Almost to a fault, because that grill and that fan is ridiculous. It looks huge. But I know that they were really pressed about that when all the drama around the R5 was going on. So for that, I'll give the R5C its flowers. But I will say, looking at the R5 Mark II, there is no fan, seemingly. But if you flip it over, there's actually a fan that sits right below here behind the LCD cutout. And I will say that's a nice touch, because it seems to me that they are trying to remedy the situation while also trying to be a little bit more form factor forward, if you will. It feels better in your hand. It looks better. Sorry, R5C and R5C owners. I love you. Let's go ahead and look on the inside now, because there are key differences, and I think this is where Canon's really pulling away with the R5 Mark II from the R5. First and foremost, we have a different sensor, which is great. I think it's great. I don't normally get caught up on the megapixel issue. I think you can get great photos with 20 megapixels, 24 megapixels. I know that the R5 Mark II has a higher electronic and mechanical shutter speed than the R5. This is just faster. And I also know that the internal recording modes on the R5 Mark II are markedly better, because they gave us 8K internal. They gave us RAW internal. Now, again, do I think it's overkill for me personally and what I do? Absolutely. They've also given us 4K and 2K, and in 4K, they have given us 120, which is huge. That was something that I remember when this came out, the R5. People were up in arms about it. Either way, 4K 120 is sick, but I have found something interesting. In 8K, you can shoot all eye, which is the preferred codec for me, because it's just going to be a better image. It's going to give you better color rendering and things like that. What I've noticed is that when you go down to 4K, whether it be their high def 4K, their regular 4K, or their like downscaled 4K, you can only shoot in long op. Strange, right? Like, am I missing something? Am I doing something wrong? Whenever I try to do it, it just says like, I cannot use these settings together. Settings can't be paired. So that was an interesting bit. Am I getting a little nitpicky? Sure. But I do think it's worth mentioning, like, you want to be able to shoot all eye on everything. Like, that's right? That's what I prefer. At the end of the day, I'm wondering if you think that the R5 Mark II is a welcome addition to the R5 lineup and a worthy successor of the R5. Do you think this is better than the R5C? Do you think that this really kind of just is a cash grab? I'm curious to know what you think from Canon. We just got these in stock, so we can rent these out. And I think this might be the best way to try things out. And I'm not just saying that because we're a rental house. I'm saying that because that's what I would do before I worked here, is I would try out gear that I wanted to try out. Even if it was for just a few days, I would just pick them up, try them out. If I didn't like them. I didn't like them. I think this camera is an interesting addition just to our current like 2024 going into 2025 lineup of cameras, because I just got done playing with the Nikon Z9, the Sony A9 III, the Canon R3, and out of all of those, I would have just replaced the R3 with this guy, but I would not have replaced the Z9 or the A9 III with this guy, because those two cameras are phenomenal. The A9 III being so much smaller, global shutter, I mean, come on, that's amazing. And the Z9 being a slept-on beast of a camera. I mean, we have some really good cameras in our gear ecosystem right now that we can all utilize. And I think that's always my big takeaway when it comes to gear at the end of the day. These camera companies are throwing great products at us. Well, maybe not all camera companies, but most of them are, and most of them are doing their best to give us as filmmakers, content creators, videographers, cinematographers, what it is we want and need. We are not biased to any of these guys. We just want you to try out the best cameras possible to help you create the things that you're trying to create. So if you think the Canon R5 Mark II is going to be that for you, let me know down below. I'm sure I missed some specs, and if I got anything wrong, I'm sure you're gonna let me know. Just do it civilly, humbly, peacefully. Let's keep the peace here, and let's always strive to create the best work that we can with the coolest gear that we can get our hands on. All right, I'll see you guys real soon. Peace.